Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is approximately 1:26 p.m. and it's your favorite dark sorcerer here. And today I want to talk a little bit about warlocks. Are they good or are they evil? Okay. To understand this concept, you must look at the etymology. The etymology that people go by today as practitioners is between the Welsh and which is Great Britain, and that of the Anglo-Saxon. Okay, etymology perspective, meaning oathbreaker and betrayer. So, understanding where the roots are that they're coming from today will help you to begin your journey into what oh, what's that guy's name? Tom Knox. Okay, Dr. Tom Knox, who is a Christian, a self-professed evangelist right here on YouTube, okay, who actually did a video on warlocks. His terminology is warlockery, and this is a term that I've seen a couple of times on social media. So, why don't we begin by getting into the different perspectives of what a warlock is? According to this Christian, Tom Knox, and this is where we're going to begin. He said that he sat down with a warlock and learned that there are two types of warlocks in the world. Those that are true bloods, who can trace their roots all the way back to Babylon, meaning the Tower of Babylon, or that of the second, which is the half blood, the book learned, those who are the learned. Okay, those who seek annotation and study and practice and have to work for everything they have, instead of having the natural powers and gifts that a true blood would have. This is coming from Tom Knox, who is a self professed Christian. You can look him right up right here on YouTube. Having a Christian speak on witchcraft and sorcery is like that of a, well, Satanist speaking on voodoo, especially when a Satanist has never been initiated into or practiced voodoo. Okay, if you haven't looked at a book and read a book, experimented, erected altars, and practiced, you would not have the same perception. Okay. So, with that said, having a Christian speak on witchcraft in a title given to a male practitioner is like having a somebody from the historical center telling you about Satanism. It's a whole different thing. Okay. Next, let's go to a shaman. Okay. This is a man that I actually respect. He's written at least 7 or 8 books that I know of. Probably a lot more because I only own maybe 6, 8 books, okay, of him. And I'm talking Christopher Penziak, okay? He runs a school, well, a number of schools up the eastern seaboard of the United States. In his book, I want to say it's the Temple of Outer Witchcraft on page 7 and page 27. No, it's page 8 and page 27. He speaks of a warlock as being just a title, such as a witch, a bruja, a brujo, a bokor, a hungan or mambo, polero, a shaman, wizard, magus, that type of stuff. Just a title given to somebody. And the way he puts it is the equivalent of somebody practicing, say, for an example, as a witch doctor or a medicine man. Okay. Somebody who is a wise man within any given tradition of sorcery, healing, such as herbalism, alchemy, and the like. Okay. This is his perspective. Now, keep in mind that Christopher Penziak actually speaks from a, how should I say this? Kind of like a metaphysics is the best term I could use when to describe him. Okay. This is because of the fact that when he teaches, he looks at it from an experiment. He looks at it from a constant mathematical flow. So when I speak of that, it's more of the fact he looks at it not only as a science, but as an art and a religion. Three different classifications mixing up one tradition. Okay. Now, when he speaks of this, he also goes into the perception of various different Wiccan and Wicca traditions, such as the W or the double V, the W sounds. He goes into the etymology and the terminology. He literally breaks it down from European into African Caribbean traditions. I really liked that about him and his work. Not many people go into great detail upon this perspective. Most will just simply take and run with whatever the hell they are told. It's like being in church. If a Christian looks at you and says, "You can't do that," do as I say, not as I do. Well, he's the only way, but yet you can't do it on your own. That's called entrapment. Okay? That's entrapment into a falsity. It is a lie. Okay? So Christopher Penziak really broke this down in his Temple series. And I really did like his perspective because he goes into such great detail. I'm talking over 500 pages of detail in just the Temple series alone. I'm talking the outer temple of witchcraft, the inner temple of witchcraft, the witchcraft, the temple of high witchcraft, Temple of Living Witchcraft Volume 1, The Goddess, and then you have the Temple of Living Witchcraft Volume 2, The God. Okay. But then you go into his book on Ascension Magic, and then you go into his book on, say, for an example, Protection Magic, and you're going to see a wide range of information on any given topic. I'm not just citing just one side. Okay, I'm not talking just Alexandrian or Gardnerian. I'm talking different regions of practices and pantheons, not just the spirits and the gods and the practices. Okay, he literally goes right into it, which is one of the things I highly respect about the man. Okay, now let's go into an older tradition, a older practitioner. Okay. When I say older, I'm talking deceased because the man died back in, what was it, 2020, I think? 2009, no, 2018, if I remember correctly. The guy's name is Raymond Buckland. No, not Raymond Buckland. What was his name? Ah, Hans Holzer. There we go. Hans Holzer. Okay. This man was renowned for fictional work. Okay, things like books on UFO sightings and UFO chasing, things like that. Kind of like what H.P. Lovecraft did. But one book, the very first book that I actually picked up on witchcraft, was a book called Witches. And I want to say it's around chapter 15, where he titles it Witches, Warlocks, and Sorcerers, devil worshippers, whatever you want to call it, because that one comes next when he gets into Satanism and all that. But this particular chapter, he literally breaks down the term warlock. And the way he breaks it down is like this: a warlock is a male practitioner not initiated into any given system. A warlock is a master of sleight of hand tricks. He basically masters whatever he can get his hands on. Okay. The way he dubbed it down is, think of Chris Angel or what was that other guy's name? David, what was it? David Blaine, I think it was. The modern day illusionists. Okay. That is how he described a warlock. But then he goes into at least a page and a half, if not 2 pages in itself, just on naming a couple different warlocks within society that he personally knew. One was a journalist. The other owns a funeral home. Okay. Works with the dead. Works within a number of different societies, practices, and views. One likes to work in at night. The other likes to work in a funeral home. He's a doctor. He's the head of a psychiatric wing. Okay. Literally, you got to delve into this book to find out what I'm talking about. And then, like I said, he breaks his stuff down. Where were they born? What styles did they practice? How did they grow up? He went into full detail when he was writing about these two individuals. That's something you don't see in today's society. You do not see this. Instead, you see corruption, Christian witches. Anybody who's ever studied the Bible or the Quran, the Jewish Bible, the Hebrew Bible, knows that you don't associate with witchcraft or any soothsayers, seers, or diviners. Do I have to recite that little quote from the book of Exodus? Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Ooh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, corruption. And now you have, as of 2000, what was it, 11, you also have the Christian Satanic Bible by Jeremy Adam Capps. So, you know, everything's gone to hell in a handbag. But let's go into witchcraft. Let's go into pure witchcraft. Let's go into Hans Holzer. Or not Hans Holzer. What was his name? Peter. Let's see, there's Peter Husson. Paul Huzon. That's the guy's name. He wrote a book called Mastering Witchcraft for Witches and Warlocks. There is no corruption, no bullshit. Mastering witchcraft. All you need is the tools, the understanding of what these tools are capable of doing, erecting an altar, and getting into the actual practices as either a male or a female practitioner. That means witch and warlock. Okay. You remember what I said about Peter, about Penziak? Okay, Christopher Penziak. He goes into the different titles and the different terminologies of each title. Paul Huzon, on the other hand, he doesn't. He just simply puts it out there the way it is, the way it's always been. Witch and warlock, male, female. Witch is not an intersexual name. This is like the bias aspects of today's practices where you get into somebody's gender. Oh, I'm gay. Let's go bipolar, or colors wise, like a rainbow of statues, like Santa Morte nowadays. Santa Morte used to be seen as a bony lady, a skeleton in a black robe or a white robe. Now you have these rainbow of colors like red, white, blue, yellow, orange, whatever. It's like, and it all has something to do with your sexual orientation. It's like, no, witchcraft has nothing to do with this shit. Okay? You go back into this older studies, you go back into the regions such as Slavic, Scottish, you get into Italian or Romanian witchcraft, you go into the land of sorcerers itself. I'm talking Egypt here when I say this. You go into Greek or Roman, Middle Eastern even. There's nothing to do with sexual orientation. There's nothing to do with various different colors. Witchcraft dealt with specific things. Witchcraft practices, necromancy, divination, and possession. This is how it's broken down into 4 segments. You deal with alchemy. You deal with herbalism. You deal with runes and spiritual languages. You're dealing with both invocations and evocations. It has nothing to do with sexual orientation. It has nothing to do with good or evil. Okay? You go back to the 6th century BC. You have the hexa. Okay? The hexa. That's Haxa. This is a Scottish term, not only for the terminology of witchcraft, but it's also a practitioner of witchcraft. Now, keeping in mind that at the time there was more women practitioners than there were male, and that's actually noted throughout history and mythological folklore. Okay, so keep that in mind. You go into Italian and Romania practices. You have the strega. The strega is both male and female. This is associated with the clans. I'm talking gypsy. Okay, the travelers, as they were called. Today, it's just more associated with Italian witchcraft. Go down into Africa, and you have the Eshi and the Aji. Okay, the Eshi is more of a witch doctor, whereas a Aji is simply somebody who practices witchcraft. Okay, you also have the titles such as Bokor. Okay, in Africa, Bokor is somebody who's considered to be uninitiated. Okay, in the African Caribbean traditions of voodoo. So the Bokor is, or Boko, depending if it's Creole or Haitian or African, is a male practitioner, whereas a Caplata, okay, is a female practitioner. And what they don't teach you is that they can become a Hungan and Mambo just as easily as a Hungan and Mambo can easily become a Caplata and a Bokor. Okay. So, and yes, that is a very much of a tongue teaser right there, too. So, I mean, even if you get into Bergeria or Santeria, you get into Quimbanda practices, you're going to see male and female. You're going to see the Polero, the Marimberos, the Bruja or the Brujo, okay? Male and female practitioners, not just the witch or warlock meaning of Indo-European traditions. You got to remember that everything started changing around the monotheistic times, and then the other tradition that came just before that. Okay, the polytheistic. Okay, 2 different eras that took place where everything started changing into good versus evil, heaven versus hell. Okay, good, God versus Satan and all that. Today you have the satanic witch, and then you have the satanic warlock. Okay, I'm a traditional Satanist. Okay, a traditional Satanist. I am a satanic warlock, yes, but I am also considered by many to be a magus. Okay, the term magus in sage is a Middle Eastern term. It means somebody who is a keeper of the arcane, the secrets, the gnosis. It is something that you find if you actually look up the independent terminologies, the titles. It's kind of like the Black Pope can be either a magistrate or magister. Okay, high priest or priestess, even. Again, that's paganism, Wiccan and Wicca practices. In Satanism, the witch and warlock are equals. They are practitioners, okay, who learn at their own whims. Whereas in Wicca, in Wiki today, we see the witch as being superior to a male, the priest. You look at Janet and Martin Farrer's book, The Witch's Bible. It is the male who bows down to the woman and is on his knees in front of the woman. Doesn't this remind you of the Christian ways? Think about that for just a minute. Women are inferior to the males. And this is all due to the Islamic, Jewish, and Hebrew methods of control. This goes back to proto Roman times. Okay? Literally, you look around the Roman, the settlement of Rome. I believe it was, if I remember correctly, through the world history, it is just northeast of Rome. There was a little village where this actually came to play. Males being superior to the woman. Now, today, we see it in a whole new light. Women are superior to men in Wicca and paganism. You see, the women are viewed as Venus. They are viewed as the universe and the wonders of the seven seas, so to speak. And this is because of this. They're the creators. They're able to bear children. Okay, they are the lesser, inferior types. Today you have the sexism, the how should I say this? The feminist movements within these things. And a lot of Wiccans and pagans get into this in the wrong frame of mind. It's supposed to be about practices of witchcraft and spirituality, but yet they don't allow for spiritual growth. If you get into one of their covens and then you reach out into a different system of magic, you're branded an oathbreaker and betrayer. This brings us right back to the beginning of this. This brings us right back to the Anglo-Saxon terminology, the etymology of oathbreaker, deceiver, and betrayer, which is also tied in with the Welsh, nowadays England, of ancient Gaelic systems. Okay? So it helps to know the meanings of the titles that you take upon yourself. More so, you have to reach out into the various different systems of magic out there. And if you bring this stuff up into, say, a Facebook group, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find somebody who wants to argue with you. Oh, you're wrong. You are mistaken. You're going to find 9 times out of 10 that you're going to end up getting gangbanged by morons who don't know shit about what they practice. That's the community that we live in today. Okay? You got everybody thinking that they are special because they were told one little tidbit of information. But nobody really delves into history. Nobody delves into mythology. Nobody delves into folklore of various different systems. Okay? Now, you look at just what I've named off here. I've gone from European to Middle Eastern to African Caribbean. But then you have the Eastern and Western philosophies, the trains of thought when it comes to sorcery. That's a whole nother story. Because when you get into these two types of philosophies, they're similar in nature, but their thoughts are diverse. They're more dualistic in nature. But it comes down to literally to the tradition that you follow. Okay. You got to remember that, like Christianity, Satanism has many denominations. You got paganism, which has numerous denominations. You got different types of pagan practices. In Wicca, you have different styles, different types of practices. You got Druid witches, you have Christian witches, you have Alexandria witches, you have Gardnerian witches, and so forth. You literally have to delve into the mythologies, the etymologies behind everything. Go throughout history, not just one style, form, or tradition. How are you to learn and grow if you are not allowed to do this? If you want to go by the Christian concepts, that's up to you. But if you want to serve on your knees, that's up to you. Now, if you want to learn and grow and become more powerful within your sorcery, because even Anton Szandor LaVey said it best, Satan represents knowledge, okay? Instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Interesting how that is, right? If knowledge is power and true power is undefiled wisdom, you see where that's going, okay? Delve into the practices and do your homework behind them, each and every single one of them. You look at the different thought forms just between talismans and amulets, runes, even. They're all intermingled, just like today's practices. But that's up to you if you want to grow or not. If you want to stay stagnant, go for it. But I would recommend highly branching out. Go solitary. Learn for yourself. Namely, because of the fact it will benefit you in the long run. And let me quote a couple of true practitioners here. S. Ben Cayenne. He's written a few books. Yeah, he's associated with Bog. A lot of people don't like Bog. But a lot of people follow Bog too. Okay? Then you have Asenath Mason and her husband, Bill Duvenak, Temple of Ascending Flame. They've done a lot of work in the name of Lucifer and Mephistopheles and the like. When it comes to historical, you'll find nobody better than those two there. If you want to get into the Middle Eastern, such as the Jinn or the Nephilim, the practices of the Necromaicon and stuff like that, and black magic, go with Espen Cayenne. You want to get into black magic in general within Luciferianism, go with Frank White from the Serpent of the Grails. Okay? These people know what they're talking about. You know, I'm a practitioner of voodoo, Santeria, and Pedo Mayambi, but I'm also a practitioner of necromancy. Okay? I know my stuff as well, but I don't go out there and flaunt it and try to force people to believe what they don't want to believe. I give you sources. I give you the education. What you do with it is up to you. It's kind of like that little button right down there underneath my page that says subscribe. It's up to you if you wish to subscribe or not. See, that's what a lot of people have a misunderstanding about. They think it's about power. They think it's about knowledge and followers. They think it's all about fame and fortune. Right and wrong, black and white, good and evil. That's the monotheistic and polytheistic viewpoints. If you want to know the truth about sorcery, go back to the 6th century. In fact, go throughout history, from today going back. Look at the Shem priests in Giza. Look at the Hashishin in Iranian folklore, mythological folkloric traditions. Look at the Darkhad. They stood against the yellow shamans. The Hashishin were actually highly trained assassins. They were literally holy men, much like the Knights of Templar were. They were warriors, but they were also spiritual monks. The Shem priests practiced magic with the Egyptian Book of the Dead. They were responsible for all the rites and rituals, the organ removals, the mummification process, not just the actual rites and ceremonies bringing in the gods. Nah, you got to go into folklore, you got to go into mythology, and you got to go into history. Find the truth and don't allow yourself to believe what's told to you at face value because you will be led astray. When you've had it, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten on Facebook and watched people wondering why their magic is not succeeding. Why is nothing going right? Does anybody have this? Does anybody have that? Why don't you learn how to create it for yourself? Why don't you forge your sorcery for yourself? Why don't you learn history and mythology and folklore for yourself? It will benefit you more than going to somebody else. But on the other hand, if you don't know what you're doing and you need a rite done, feel free to hire somebody. History has taught one constant thing. Those who need something done go to shamans. They go to necromancers. They go to practitioners for their services. Those who could pay money did pay in money. Those who could not get traded furs and fish in exchange for the services. You see, this is stuff that people forget today. It's all about greed, numbers, and popularity. I could give two shits about that. I'm old school. Perhaps my kind is a dying breed. I don't know. But like I said, look into these sources and before you believe anything, do your own research. All right? Afro Root Witch, welcome back. And Tacticians USA, welcome back. Welcome to the channel. That's all I wanted to say on Warlocks. Have a good one.